Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1-minute segments and then examine it in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco, Mr. Kyle, Mr.
Yes,
Ray.
We're
How are you guys doing?
We're looking forward to the end of the trial. This trial has been a trial.
I know, right, of course. You know, I was doing some research about something that I've always been interested in, and I didn't realize I actually grew up in a very close place to where this started. Did you know that in radio and in television, a broadcast delay is an intentional delay when broadcasting live material, technically referred to as deferred live? Did you know that this began at a radio station, WKAP, in Allentown, Pennsylvania?
Oh, shout out to PA.
Shout out to Allentown. Anybody who's a fan of Dorney Park, way to go. That's a great place to go growing up if you're out there in the tri-state area. So basically, they created this system. It was introduced in 1952. It was invented by a man by the name of C. Frank Cordero, who was the chief engineer here. And they had a whole bunch of things to do. They were starting up a program called Open Mic. Scary. And in the open mic, they were going to broadcast these live conversations. They had several problems that they had to resolve when they were doing this. One, there was concern about obscenity or any profanities or anything's coming on, and how could they prevent that from being broadcast? Here's the other, the bigger problem they had. At that time, FCC rules prohibited the broadcasting of a live telephone conversation. And so what they did is they created a tape delay system where they spaced the two heads on both the live and the recorded version just enough where they'd have 6 seconds apart. And that 6-second delay allowed them to circumvent the FCC regulations, because technically you were not listening to a live telephone call. You were listening to a pre-recorded one, albeit delayed for 6 seconds.
Ooh.
First of all, I love ingenuity like that.
That's chutzpah, and I like
Let
it.
me tell you, my Pennsylvania brethren, I'm proud of you. That's fantastic. That's what exactly, right, Ray, as well? Like, I just love that idea. Also, clearly it's led to a very important thing, which is the delay so that you can edit out bad words, which may have come in helpful to, C-SPAN, which they did use, because obviously this takes place in a time where that existed. What am I talking about? We'll get to it in this minute.
I think you're talking about the 7 words you can't say on television, and 3 of them have been said in the last 30 seconds of this movie. Here we are, minute 18 of Iron Man 2 from 2010, directed by Mr. Jon Favreau. And yeah, we didn't even talk about the end of minute 17. We had the S word, now we had the A word, and then we have the F word. I don't think even we can say it because we have to keep our PG rating.
No, we're a family-oriented organization. You know the words we're talking about.
Yes, and business-wise, I believe there are certain parts of the world that we can't be aired if we say any of those words, which is one of the reasons we say we can't say them during the broadcast.
Because we also love and adore our international listeners.
That's right. There's a whole, eastern part, sort of in the middle of that thing that has a lot of very strong feelings about strong language, and so we want to make sure those people can hear the show as well. So shout out to the people in the desert. We love you. So Tony's we have at the end, as he's making his big triumphant exit from this thing. I'm trying to play ball with these clowns. Yeah.
Which I gotta say, though, that's unfortunate that he lumped all the senators in that group.
Right. We only know we have a problem with one.
Right.
Senator Stern, played by Mr. Gary Shandling. But he's the one who gets to have to drop the F-bomb. I think this is the first F-bomb in the MCU, but of course it's bleeped. So this was the smart way. And actually, Jon Favreau said this is what they came up with because they wanted to have him say it. But they're like, oh, what if we show the C-SPAN footage of it? And so have them bleep it, and so he can still say it, but we're still bleep it. So he said,
very smart.
F you, Mr. Stark. F you, buddy. And it says, we're adjourned.
But
you've been a delight.
It's strategically bleeped.
Ooh, yes.
I love when they strategically bleep words where you get the first sound and the last sound, but somehow,
right,
because you bleeped the middle syllable or the majority of it, it's okay. you know the word he said.
Yeah, and Jimmy Kimmel obviously has made a big thing of this unnecessary censorship, which is so funny when you like they take just any word out and it becomes the dirtiest thing because you fill in the gap. Yeah,
and just in the play of this, obviously it's interesting not just to have Gary Shandling, by the way, props because he and rest in peace, but props for this performance because it's so delivered, like you can get his anger. Yeah. And yet he's still in the character of the senator, right? So he's doing it knowing what he's doing. It's amazing to see the reactions of the people playing the role of his senators next to him. The guy next to him just puts his head in his hand like, dude, this is the United States Senate for whatever that's worth these days. This is still like,
as an extra, man. That's a good gig to have. Like sitting up there, like as a senator, like next to Gary Shandling as he's going to, because apparently this is the cleanest cut they had. Like there are a lot worse versions that when he really let him have
I'm sure. And, I could have added this too. Here's the funny thing is you'd probably say to yourself, well, that could never happen. Those words have never been spoken in a governmental Senate testimony. Oh, actually, depending on what time you're listening to this, it happened as early as August of 2020. There was a Senate hearing here in the United States about the Postal Service, and one of the senators, I won't name him because it happens to the best of us, he was having a tough time in his Senate office getting into the live stream to ask his question. And he said the same word as our Senator Stearns here did several times live in the Senate hearing.
Which is now part of the record. And you can go to the Library of Congress and see this happen.
So it happens.
I mean, obviously, senators have gotten into fistfights and didn't one even beat one down with his walking stick at one point. So,
we've been doing this for a while. Things happen.
Exactly. Favreau talks about this being like Caesar meeting the Senate because the public opinion is on Tony's side. So, as you can see from the reaction, like the audience is with him. They are not with you should give the Iron Man suit over to the government. They're like, you really stuck it to those elected officials.
Well, it's the expressions say everything to this because as he's doing this great little shtick, you see the senators are just horrified because they're like, the military dudes that we talked about in a previous minute in the first row, they're just sitting there like, nope, not standing up, not doing nothing.
Right.
No.
There's this appointment. Nope.
No, I'm done. I'm just here, right, doing my thing. And then you've got Rhodey and Hammer. Their reactions are the best.
Yeah. Because you're right. Because Rhodey is just like, oh man, like he really did it again. And Hammer is still just like, oh, Tony, like he's still he's just looking at, he really is like the Sam Rockwell's reaction is looking at him like, wow, he really stuck it to those guys.
No, it's Hammer. See what I got of it is it's him sitting there. It's him sitting there going, you stepped in it, but boy, do I really want to be you.
He's fanboying. He's totally fanboying. Really,
why can't I be you? Don't I sound like you? Why does everybody not treat me like you?
You know who Justin Hammer is? Do you ever know one of those kids in school that really loved a rock star? And so they picked up the look, they picked up the instrument, and they had everything down except no musical ability whatsoever.
You mean all those kids wearing red zipper jackets in 6th grade? No, is
that's who Justin Hammer is. Because dude wants to have all the flair that Tony Stark has, but like you said in the previous minute, Rob, can't even figure out to pull the power cord.
Yeah, and I can tell you personally, when Tony stands up and puts his sunglasses on and gives a thumbs up, I have used that GIF probably 1,000 times. That's one of my favorites because it's such a great thing of like, right, great, it's good. So, we obviously here we get to see someone who's watching this footage, but there actually is a deleted scene that would go right in here because originally they did not cut from this to what we'll talk about in a minute. Because they actually went a different direction because it ends with Tony putting his hand on Rhodey's shoulder like, haha, I really got to those guys. And they cut immediately to a plane ride. So you can find this deleted scene. I believe it's actually on Disney Plus now. And it is, you can also, it's on the Blu-ray and you can find it on the YouTubes. It's called Senate Plane Scene. So if you do like Iron Man 2 deleted scene, Senate Plane Scene. And it's Pepper and Rhodey and Tony all flying back to wherever, I guess to California, and they're basically talking about what just happened and what's going to happen. So it's just one of those like, hey, let's recap the last scene and set up the next scene. And it is terrible. It is really one of the, I'm so glad they cut this out, because there is a line. I think it's interesting, like the power of editing too, because we all love Tony Stark and he's charming and he's irascible and funny stuff too. But like, what if it goes too far in one direction or another, he is an awful person you would never want to be around. And this is definitely there. He is the most childish in this scene I've ever seen. Like, he's so selfish. He's so bratty in this too. Just like, like, it is the worst. It's like, this is like, no one would want to follow this guy anywhere, much less have his poster up on their wall. I don't need to recap the whole thing, but you can see it for yourself. But basically, like, Tony is mad at Rhodey because he feels like he betrayed him in the scene. Pepper's trying to keep control of everything, and Tony's just being a snot. So one of the things that's interesting halfway through is that the idea of this was that they were doing a suborbital flight. So the idea is that this Stark plane was taking straight up from Washington, going suborbital and coming down in California. So at one point, they hit the 0G mark as they drop down. And so they were doing a CGI test on Gwyneth Paltrow's hair to see what it would be like in CG. So for one shot in this whole thing, she has flying hair, like her hair goes up, and they cut back to Tony and then back to her, and it's back to just normal. So they were testing it out to see if it would actually work, and ended up, just cutting the whole scene out, which was wise. But I think the best line probably of the whole scene was Rhodey saying, "I think hanging out with you is bad for our friendship." What did you guys think of the deleted scene?
I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head, sir.
Yeah, it's definitely not it's worth watching though.
It is worth watching.
You got to see her hair, because that's, unless you don't know the backstory, you're like, what the hell's going on?
Wow, yeah, one scene, all of a sudden she goes full Medusa.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it completely is crazy. And okay, the other reason why you're going to watch it is because the set for this is amazing. These are the coolest aircraft chairs you could ever imagine. They even have like Star Trek Insurrection pop out like seatbelts and stuff. Yeah. They're totally amazing. But okay, and also here's the other reason why you want to watch it. It's really funny to see three actors in a plane set have a conversation without ambient aircraft noise.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because it's ridiculous,
and none of the really incredibly sexist stewardesses from the first Iron Man movie are in this either.
Pepper's there,
No. They're gonna be.
Yeah. We got our own problems with Pepper's representation.
Oh, we'll get there. Yeah. No, this is interesting. It's obviously there too, because it's helping to set up a future, obviously, plot in the movie where we're going to go someplace. Yeah, that's the only other purpose for this.
They mentioned Monaco in this.
Yes.
And, we've seen on his phone, and now this. It's like they're emphasizing where they're going.
Actually, now that you mention his phone, at the beginning of this deleted scene, they're arguing that Tony didn't fact check the file that Rhodey left for him. I find it interesting that even though he had the Senate hearing materials on his phone, they didn't mention him having Rhodey's file on the phone.
It's true.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But back to the actual movie. As the camera pulls back, we see someone else has been watching this on a crappy television. And Rob, there's someone else we haven't seen in quite a few minutes.
I'm so excited.
It's a bird. We spot a bird.
I can't believe I just let the whole sound effect. Sorry, Ray. Sorry, I let the whole thing
heard
play.
it yet, so he needed to hear the whole thing. The audience is like, "We get it. It's a cockatoo."
Every time. Yeah, well, you're going to keep getting it, because every time there's a Boyd sighting, we're playing that, because I'm big on the Boyd.
So it's a little bit. I'm trying to remember. I think I talked a little bit about this, but like in the commentary, Favreau talks a little bit more about the bird and how he went to visit Mickey Rourke at the boxing gym, and there was a bird there with him, and so he started thinking about that. And apparently, a cockatoo is Jon Favreau's favorite animal. So he put those two things together. And was like, So Mickey Rourke wanted the bird, and he was like, "You need to have a cockatoo as the bird." Great, and so thus, Elvis got his big role here.
What's neat about this though is that as you're cutting, I mean, obviously you already know, you've seen, you kind of knew where this was going.
Yeah.
But when it cuts, immediately you know it's back in Russia. It's the old TV. It's the Russian overlays that are being put superimposed over the imagery, and of course the bird. And
but I think it's interesting that as we come back, that Whiplash is still in his montage. It was sort of like we had this whole trial, and then it's like the music hits. I'm like, oh right, like he's like this whole for the last 6 months he's been in this montage.
Well, dude's a big Ivan Drago fan. You know?
That's right. That's right. I must break you. So on the screen, Tony is sort of giving his last word as he's walking down straight to camera. And he says, "My bond is with the people, and I will serve this great nation at the pleasure of myself. And if there's one thing I've proven, that you can count on me to pleasure myself." That's such an RDJ. Like with all the amount of improv, it's sort of like, I'm pretty sure that was a Robert Downey Jr. improv.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah, because
who knows?
No, you don't know. But I mean, okay, no, it's totally funny. We've had a lot of crossing the proverbial line in this minute. Like,
that's true.
There's a lot going on here.
These maybe the dirtiest 2 minutes in the MCU
until
this point.
Until Star-Lord. Yeah,
until Star-Lord. Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
So on, but the 2 dirtiest Earth-based minutes.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
So we see Ivan is still working. So he powers up some sort of large cable, and then he pulls out a harness, and and he puts it on, and it's very, very Dr. Octopus as we see the little ridges go up the back and sort of lock in, and then it turns out that these cables are actually whips. What? And man, does he hate that TV? Maybe think of the jerk right too. He hates that TV.
Now, okay, so a couple things to say about this. One, we've got the callback to the collage of newspaper clippings and magazine clippings on the wall that we talked about during the credits, and I think we said there's a few added. I mean, it looks like there's more going on.
It's been 6 months since we last saw the beginning of this montage.
So no, I like that. I love the effects in that. Okay, the last we left him in his montage, he had created his reactor. Mm-hmm. Now he's putting it to work. I really love that first time he ignites the whip. You see also the practical effects. They had some sort of light that actually illuminated and bounced off everything that's on that workbench. So that's actually really cool. I love when you can see that mix of practical and digital effects. I love the effect of the actual electricity, the power going through it. I just think it's a wonderfully well done effect. And then, okay, nice storytelling. Mm-hmm. Okay, these are whips, but what can they do? Well, it can slice an old CRTV in half.
Yeah,
which will become very important. Yeah, very important for later in the movie to understand the power of what those can do.
Yeah. So, and that is unfortunately where the minute comes to an end with the death of that poor CRT TV. Hopefully, he'll be taking a vacation here soon that he can, because I mean, obviously he doesn't have a television now, so I don't know what he's going to do with his time. But I know what you can do with your time, and let's head over to our Discord. That's right, nextreel.com/Discord. We have our own dedicated Marvel Movie Minutes channel. We're talking about all this stuff. It's a great place for putting up memes. I really love MCU memes, so if you put those up there, you'll guarantee to make me at least 10% happier. But it's free to join. We have secret exclusive member channels, which you'll have to dig into to find out how to get into those. But in the meantime, we're there talking about all of our shows, talking about trailers, about movies, about television shows. There's all sorts of stuff. It's a pretty good community, and so we pop in there from time to time. So nextreel.com/Discord, join for free. It's always the best price. So finally, our trial has come to an end, and things are getting serious. So I think Tony's going to head home and then revel in his victory here in minute 19. So make sure that you join us for that. Am I saying that right? Wait, now I'm wondering if I did the time right. It is. We just finished 18. That we're going to 19, right? Okay,
you're completely right.
I want to make sure I moved off of that.
No, there's no discord among what you've been saying.
Man, that's too good of a joke. We're going to be cutting all this out. That was good.
I'm not cutting any of this out.
What?
This is all staying.
Sometimes I doubt myself, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so thank you for listening. Ray, can you stick around as we head back home to Tony Stark's lair?
You can't get rid of me.
Oh, that sounds like a threat. Enough said.
Bye.